Have you ever tried to play a perfectly balanced game? If those actually exist, have you ever tried to play one? Do you know what that actually would feel like? And why it's honestly one of the worst things possible that could ever happen to a video game ever? Well, I'm going to tell you why in this video, and we're going to be talking about it in the context of Path of Exile. How's it going, everyone? I'm the one and only 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿. Welcome back to a new video, and as I said, in today's video, we're going to be talking about game balance as a whole, and why if a game ever achieved a state of perfect balance, it would actually probably ruin the game for everybody. Let's talk about why. So, in the context of this, and as for what I'm talking about, I'm playing in the background. I'm playing 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿 League, where the thing where 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉 existed and came out, which was Siege of the Atlas, and it was just a part of that, I think. So no, wait, there was an actual league. Yeah, it was a part of Siege of the Atlas. Anyway, sorry, sidetrack. Anyway, so we're talking about game balance as a whole. So briefly, let me characterize this. For the purposes of this, forget your preconceived notions of what you consider balance. Just stop for a second, breathe, and think about balance in the context of what I'm about to tell you and what I'm about to say. Think about balance like a seesaw. If you don't know what a seesaw is, it's a playground thing that, kids, one kid on either side, and it's like a fulcrum in the middle, and you each have like a little handlebar, and one person jumps and the other goes down, and then the other person jumps and then you go down, and so on and so forth. As one person jumps, the other goes up and down and up and down. That is how a actual effective analogy for game balance is, right? Think about nerfs and buffs on either side of this seesaw. As you buff something, it raises the other side and it weighs down the other, or either however you want to think about it. You buff and then the other side falls, and then you nerf some things back down and the other side falls, and then you do it, so on and so forth. It is a constant struggle. It is a constant back and forth, and that is honestly good for the health of a game. Why? Well, think about what happens if a game ever achieves a perfect state of balance. I'll put air quotes around that every time, because it will probably never actually happen. It's virtually impossible. But if it ever did, let's just theorize and talk about if a game ever achieved that flat line where both sides of the seesaw are literally even to a perfect flat 0 degrees, what happens? Well, the first thing that's going to happen is a stale, stagnant meta is going to form. It forms every time, right? But when there's balance, every league in Path of Exile, it shifts one side to the other. There's a few new things that change a little bit. And obviously, sometimes there's not enough of a change and the changes like that, and then the meta still stays a little stagnant. In the case where there is a perfect balance that is achieved and nothing changes, you get a point where you exactly know what the best skills are. You know exactly what to play and what the strongest things will be. No matter what happens, you know what the strongest things will be. There will never, it's balanced. So why would they ever change it, right? Is kind of what it becomes. It kind of becomes a point of it's balanced. The game is perfectly balanced, all these skills. You could also argue that, if it's perfectly balanced, then every skill is viable. Every skill has the same level of power, but that's never going to happen. Even if you get to a point where all the skills can do similar damage numbers, you still have a problem with area of effect. You still have a problem with, this skill can kill this boss slightly, 1%, 0.5% faster, so it's going to be better than the rest. There will never be a state of perfect balance. And if there ever was, the staleness of the meta would become just frustratingly so bad that you would never want to. You wouldn't want that. You would never want there to be a perfect balance. So, what then should we hope for and ask for in Path of Exile and in games like it, right? what do you want in terms of game balancing? You really, really want meta shakeups. You really want things to change every single league. And I know that can scare some types of players. Some types of players want to play the same build every single league, and they want it to stay consistently strong and never change. And I get that. I do understand that that's where some players kind of, feel that's where they are comfortable. But to be perfectly honest with you, that is a unrealistic pipe dream, and especially in a live service game where they're constantly adding new things, you should strive to look at these new things. You should strive to want to play with the new things. Like I don't know, you should step out of your comfort zone a little bit more. Try new things and feel encouraged by the fact that things are constantly changing. Because when the game truly gets stagnant, that is when games die. That is when games actually die. Like, people are talking about Path of Exile like, oh, it's dead game, it's dead game. This league was bad, this league didn't do well. They've had dead leagues before. They had dead leagues where the bugs and crashes and server issues were so bad you actually could not play the game. And Path of Exile's still here 2, 3, 4 years later. So the game's not dead by any stretch of the imagination. But if they ever allow themselves to reach that stale balance point, it will die. So what can they do? How do they actually achieve a meta shakeup? Roughly every league, right? They should definitely. I don't want them to do any more freezes like they did. They did a balance freeze in Arch Nemesis because they were adding a lot of additional monster difficulty to the game, which I'm still a big fan of, by the way. I know Arch Nemesis was poorly received and things like that, but overall, I'm a fan of what they were trying to do with Arch Nemesis. Making recognizable mods, upping the difficulty in a way that should be a little bit more recognizable. They need to still tune it a little bit and deal with some issues, but it's a good thing towards shaking up the game and making it feel more unique. Every encounter feels unique. You're not doing the same balanced content, the same stagnant boss fight over and over and over again. The same rare enemy runs up on you and you're like, oh, it's not a volatile, it's not a storm weaver or whatever. I forget what's the storm mirage things, and you're not afraid unless it's those two. Now, at this point, when you run up on certain Arch Nemesis mods, you're just like, oh, I really need to run from this thing. And they'll continue to tweak it and tune it. But how do they actually go about it in the terms of skills? Because that's what everybody really cares about, is how do they keep the skills of Path of Exile flowing, feeling good, feeling, never truly like perfectly balanced, but at least relatively balanced, right? They just need to continue shaking things up. I don't really ever want there to be a point where I can look at the same skill every league and go, yep, that skill right there, that is top 5, no matter what. That will never change. And to some degree, it's always going to be like that. That's why I said game balance is a seesaw. It's never going to achieve that flat line, but they can just keep, back and forthing it. Keep it interesting. Even though it will never achieve balance, take comfort in knowing that it will never achieve balance. Lean into it and just try to keep things interesting. Put out new skills. Whenever a new skill comes out, I don't want a new skill to be balanced. I want a new skill to be so broken that they might have to nerf it 2 times before it's actually a balanced skill. And it's fun and it's interesting when new skills come out, because you're incentivized to play the new thing, the new broken OP thing. And it's fun. I want them to be less afraid, to not be afraid to take risks. Currently in Path of Exile, they seem like they are terrified of their community, and I hate that. I want them to take back the reins from the Path of Exile crybaby community that won't let them take risks. They need to put things out that will break the game in half. Buff skills to the upteenth degree and nerf the strong skills and make the balance constantly shift. And I think that will be a much, much better state for Path of Exile. That's all I've got to say. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed the video. I really appreciate it. Let me know down below in the comments if you have any suggestions for how you think they should handle game balancing as a whole. If you think I'm totally wrong, let me know down below. Try to keep it civil. Let's all be nice. We're all relatively adults here. Let's try and, have a civilized discussion if you want to talk about it down below. And yeah, I'd love to see your comment. I'll give it a little heart if I enjoy it. And yeah, see y'all in a new video tomorrow. And I hope y'all have a great day.